This is the first episode in a video series about Samuel Wood Gaylor, known to his friends as Wood Gaylor, an American modernist painter from the early 20th century. Gaylor was an active member of the art worlds of New York City and Ogunquit, Maine from the 19-teens through the 1930s, though his contributions have been little recognized until now. He depicted the festive events of those artistic circles in a bright, colorful, flattened style full of fascinating details that reward close looking. I'm Alice Boone, Curator of Education and Public Programs at the Fleming Museum of Art.
And I'm Andrea Rosen, the Curator at the Fleming.
In this video series, we will explore Gaylor's life and art. In this episode, Andrea talks about the painting that launched her interest into learning more about this forgotten modernist. Andrea, how would you describe this painting?
This is a painting that sucks you in because you want to know what's going on. You have a man in the right side striking what I call a walk like an Egyptian pose, and a bunch of women in their bloomers trying to imitate that pose. And a couple men at the left who you see from behind, one operating the record player, and a dog. So it makes you think, what is going on here?
Yeah, what kind of dance lesson is this?
Right, so Walt Koon is the man at the right. He was an important modern American painter in the early 20th century who organized a pivotal exhibition in 1913 called the Armory Show that introduced a lot of modern styles like Cubism. In 1916, Koons started a group called the Penguin, which mounted exhibitions of modern art and mounted really ambitious arts balls, these yearly events at big venues with costumes and choreographed dances and custom-made props. So in this painting, Koon is leading a rehearsal for one of those arts balls at the Penguin's headquarters in a brownstone in New York City.
How did this painting open up the world of Wood Gaylor for you so that you were intrigued to do more research?
So Gaylor was a member of the Penguin, and he was close with Koon. And so many of Gaylor's paintings depict the festive events of the art world of the time, including the Penguin art balls. And so by starting to research this painting a few years ago for another exhibition, I discovered that Gaylor's paintings and his life were a window into this moment in American art history when groups like the Penguin were promoting American modern art. And yet, both Gaylor's role in that moment and the role of groups like the Penguin hasn't been written about much, and Gaylor's work is rarely shown. So I thought that by doing a deeper exploration of Gaylor's life and art, we could learn a lot about artists and groups of this moment that were important but are often overlooked.
So what's a detail that we might not notice at first?
So I love that you see paintings leaning against the walls, and to me that indicates that they were between exhibitions. They're deinstalling or reinstalling. And then there's this, it looks like this floor-to-ceiling window at the back of the room. That is completely green, as if a big green shade has been pulled down. And I think this calls attention to the way that Gaylor uses a very straightforward one-point perspective to set up the room. And in fact has blocked off any sense of a background onto the street by pulling down that shade. Gaylor was never a full-time artist. He actually had a job as a dress pattern designer. So his work is very focused on line. His paintings, in his paintings, he outlines figures and then fills them in with solid blocks of color. So they're pretty flat. There's not a lot of shading. And the way he sets up this room and even the way he blocks off that window, I think calls attention to that, that despite this perspective, it's pretty flat. And I think that Gaylor might have been saving himself some trouble by leaving out some of those details.
It's actually a great way to highlight the theatrical qualities of the scene.
Absolutely. I always describe the way that Gaylor sets up space like he's setting up a stage. Like Like what we're looking at is the stage, and the way that Gaylor has arranged the figures in space is like the way a theatrical director would. And I think that's appropriate because often Koon is the center of the activities Gaylor is depicting. Koon is the artistic director of the arts balls, but Gaylor is the artistic director of his paintings, and he gets to place figures in space the way a director would.
You know, he does something similar in Lilies of the Field with half-dressed men this time. They're relaxing, but Gaylor has posed them dynamically with like bent elbows and knees, and there's both symmetry and asymmetry in the arrangement of the figures.
Yeah, and it's another one where he's created that one-point perspective, and yet this time he's playing with space a bit more. So there's several mirrors against that wall, including one that's at an angle, and in one of the mirrors we see an open door reflected from the other side of the room with a man peeking through. And so it's like he himself is subverting that flattened space that he's so known for. So even though Gaylor seems to have this naive style, I think it's knowing and it's smart, and he knows what he's doing, and he's very playful about it. And I look forward to sharing more about his style in future episodes.